Good evening, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Coming up in the next hour. U.S., EU, Ukraine hold talks in Paris to end the conflict with Russia. Kremlin welcomes the dialogue but accuses Ukraine of violating pause on energy strikes. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi visits Russia ahead of second round of talks with the U.S. India calls U.S. Iran nuclear talks a positive development. U.S. stocks in dollars find some stability as Trump claims big progress on negotiating tariffs with Japan. Italian Prime Minister in Washington for talks. India and China to resume direct air services soon, both sides working out the operational details. And India's mixed pair of Suruchi Singh and Saurabh Chaudhary clinched gold medal in the 10-meter air pistol in the ongoing ISSF Shooting World Cup in Peru. High-stakes diplomacy unfolded in Paris as U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met French President Emmanuel Macron amidst mounting European concerns over Washington's outreach to Moscow. The talks involving U.S., EU and Ukrainian officials comes at a pivotal moment in triangular diplomacy with Russia. While the Kremlin has welcomed the dialogue, it accused Ukraine of violating the pause on energy strikes.
Amid the high-level diplomatic maneuvers and growing European unease over Washington's friendly gestures to Moscow, a pivotal meeting took place in Paris on Thursday. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio met French President Emmanuel Macron to discuss the deepening Ukraine crisis. Also, ahead of the talks in Paris, U.S. President Donald Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, met European diplomats. The high-stakes talks involving US, EU and Ukrainian officials come at a critical juncture in the triangular diplomacy unfolding between Washington, Moscow and Kyiv. Meanwhile, Russia's top economic negotiator Kirill Dmitriev says certain countries are trying to derail Moscow's talks with the United States as the two sides work towards normalizing ties.
You know, the meeting was extremely productive, but as I said before, many people, structures and countries are trying to disrupt our dialogue with the United States. There is very active propaganda against Russia in the United States in various mass media, so it is very important to convey the Russian position directly, and this was certainly done, and a very useful dialogue is underway.
Europe is increasingly concerned over US outreach to Moscow amid stalled efforts by Trump to broker a ceasefire. Both Russia and US have been holding comprehensive talks. Kremlin said that meeting between US, Ukraine and European countries in Paris is a chance for US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to inform them of the current status of talks.
Apparently, various aspects of Ukrainian settlement will be discussed during a meeting between the US, Ukraine and European countries in Paris. We had with Mr. Witkoff, our President Vladimir Putin has recently a very lengthy conversation. We know that the content of this conversation has been reported to the US President Donald Trump.
Russia has also accused Ukraine of daily violations of US-brokered moratorium on striking energy infrastructure, claiming a total of 80 such attacks since the pause took effect. Amid continued strikes by both sides, a large explosion occurred in Russia's town of Shuya, following reports of Ukrainian drone attacks. Video posted on social media Wednesday captured the moment of the blast. Meanwhile, a Russian mass drone strike reportedly killed 3 people Wednesday evening in the southeastern Ukrainian city of Dnipro. Ravindra Chauhan's report for DD India.
Iran Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is in Moscow to consult the Russian leadership on the ongoing nuclear program negotiations with the United States. Meanwhile, American envoy Steve Witkoff engaged with the European partners. The high-stakes second round of negotiations between Iran and the US takes place this weekend in Rome. Here's more.
Ahead of second round of U.S. Iran nuclear program talks, important meetings and diplomatic exchanges are taking place in different parts of the world. On Thursday, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi was in Russia to consult with Moscow regarding the latest talks between Iran and the United States. He had a meeting scheduled with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Kremlin has offered to do everything in its powers to help find a diplomatic resolution to nuclear program standoff between United States and Iran. On the other hand, U.S. President Donald Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff met with European diplomats in Paris. Iran nuclear talks featured on the agenda. Saudi Arabia's Defense Minister Prince Khalid bin Salman arrived in Tehran ahead of weekend talks between Iran and the United States over the Iranian nuclear program. India has said the ongoing U.S.-Iran talks is a positive development and emphasized that dialogue and diplomacy on such issues can lead to mutually agreeable solutions. Meanwhile, the UN nuclear watchdog IAEA chief Rafael Grossi was shown around an exhibition of Iran's nuclear achievements in Tehran. Grossi, however, said verification by the IAEA would be required to make any nuclear deal valid. Earlier, Rafael Grossi met with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in Tehran on Wednesday.
It was necessary that we kept the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency informed about the course of event because the agency must play a very important role in continuing the process and it must do so.
So where are Iran's nuclear facilities? Natanz. Natanz houses facilities including 2 enrichment plants, the vast underground fuel enrichment plant FEP and the above-ground pilot fuel enrichment plant PFEP. Fordo. On the opposite side of the Iranian city of Qom, Fordo is an enrichment site dug into a mountain and therefore probably better protected from potential bombardment than the FEP. The 2015 deal with major powers did not allow Iran to enrich at Fordo at all. Isfahan. Iran has a large nuclear technology center on the outskirts of Isfahan, its second largest city. It includes the fuel plate fabrication plant, FPFP, and the uranium conversion facility, UCF, that can process uranium into the uranium hexafluoride that is fed into centrifuges. Kondab. Iran has a partially built heavy water research reactor originally called Arak and now Kondab. Under the 2015 deal, construction was halted, the reactor's core was removed and filled with concrete to make it unusable. Iran has informed the IAEA that it plans to start operating the reactor in 2026, when the 2015 UN resolution expires on October 18, 2025. Also, the resolution provided for a snapback clause, which allowed impositions of sanctions in case Iran restarted work on the reactor. However, with the expiry of the 2015 resolution in October, the opportunity to trigger the snapback clause ends. But Trump has directed his UN ambassador to work with allies to reintroduce sanctions on Iran in case the ongoing talks fail. If the parties cannot resolve accusations of significant non-performance by Iran, this process can be triggered at the 15-member United Nations Security Council. The second round of talks is set to take place in Rome this weekend. Fuzail Ahmed and Shubhendu Ghosh's report for DD India.
As the Donald Trump-led trade war continues to sour ties among nations around the world, a number of countries have started sending their delegation and envoys to hold talks with the U.S. administration. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni on Thursday visited Washington, while Japan sent its delegation to the U.S. Malaysia too intends to send Trade Minister Zafrul Aziz to the United States on April 24th. However, China and U.S. remain at an impasse over who should start the talks. Fuzail Ahmed gets us more.
Amid the ongoing tariff tension, a number of countries have already begun their negotiations with the United States. On Thursdays, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni traveled to Washington to hold talks with US President Donald Trump. Her visit aimed at securing a more favorable trade deal for the European Union. Besides, the Japanese delegation visited Washington to hold trade talks with Trump administration. Following talks, Trump wrote on his Truth Social network, "A great honor to have just met with the Japanese delegation on trade. Big progress." However, Japan's Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba said that future negotiations with the United States won't be easy.
Minister Akazawa stated at the Japan-US talks that the US tariff measures are extremely unacceptable, and after that explaining Japan's view on the impact on Japanese industry and the expansion of investment and employment in both Japan and the United States. He has strongly requested that the series of tariff measures by the United States be reviewed.
Chile's Vice Minister for Trade, Sanhueza, met with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer to discuss reciprocal trade, United States Trade Representative wrote on X. The Trump administration will continue to engage with our trading partners to address trade barriers and further America's first trade policy. China, too, expressed openness to trade talks with the US, but urged Washington to end its threats and blackmail. While Malaysia's state media agency Bernama reported on Thursday that the country's trade minister, Zafrul Aziz, will travel to the US on April 24th to meet the US trade representative and other officials for talks about the US tariffs imposed on the country. These talks come after US President Donald Trump said that more than 75 countries had contacted his administration to negotiate on trade. With Fuzail Ahmed, Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
And still to come on DD India Newshour. China's Xi Jinping arrives in Cambodia, capping a 3-stop tour of Southeast Asia. U.S. Homeland Security Chief cancels 2 grants to Harvard University. And Russian President Putin meets Emir of Qatar in Moscow.
Nature gives and we take, and sometimes a little too much. But what happens when this balance tips, and who is the most impacted? Let's take a look at some of the solutions that are trying to help these communities.
We want to encourage people to consume more local products. These were caught in environmentally friendly nets, not farmed. That makes a huge difference.
Project Tangaroa. It's working to build a global framework that can help identify which wrecks need to be taken care of first and find the funding for cleanup missions.
We use SLR organic fertilizer for our plants. With organic fertilizer, the yield is better and the soil's health improves.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Moving on to the next stories, Trump administration officials could face criminal contempt charges for violating a U.S. federal judge's order halting deportations of alleged members of Venezuelan gang who had no chance to challenge their removals. The administration had invoked a 227-year-old law meant to protect America during wartime to carry out the mass deportation. DD India's Antara Sinha has more.
A U.S. judge has found probable cause to hold the Trump administration in contempt over its handling of a deportation case involving alleged members of a Venezuelan gang. The ruling from U.S. District Judge James Boasberg escalates the ongoing clash between the executive and judicial branches, with the judge accusing the administration of willfully disregarding a court order to halt deportations to El Salvador. On March 15th, Judge Boasberg issued a temporary restraining order blocking the deportation of over 200 Venezuelans. Now, in a written opinion, the judge concluded that the government engaged in deliberate or reckless disregard of his order when it nevertheless proceeded with the flights. The deportations were carried out under the rarely invoked Alien Enemies Act, a wartime law dating back to 1798. He further allowed government a final chance to purge such contempt, or it will face further court action. The White House has said the administration would seek immediate appellate relief, framing the deportations as necessary to protect American communities from what it called terrorists and criminal illegal migrants.
The enforcement mechanism is exactly what Judge Boasberg is doing. He has found probable cause that they violated his court order. And if a jury convicts, the administration officials responsible will be subject to criminal penalties.
The latest legal battle also ties into the case of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, a man mistakenly deported to El Salvador. A judge has ordered Trump to facilitate his return, an order upheld by the Supreme Court, but his government has said the court did not have the authority to order it to have him returned. White House says Garcia was engaged in human trafficking.
Democrat officials still refuse to accept the will of the American people. Maryland Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen rushed to Dulles Airport this morning to fly to El Salvador, potentially using taxpayer dollars, to demand the release of deported illegal alien MS-13 terrorist. Kilmer Abrego Garcia is an illegal alien MS-13 gang member and foreign terrorist who was deported back to his home country.
Meanwhile, Democratic U.S. Senator from Maryland, Chris Van Hollen, tried to meet Garcia in El Salvador but was denied access.
Why is the government of El Salvador continuing to imprison a man where they have no evidence he's committed any crime and they've not been provided any evidence from the United States that he's committed a crime? So they should just let him go.
The Trump administration faces more than 150 legal challenges to its policies. Wednesday's ruling by Judge Boasberg is the closest any court has come to suggesting punishing the administration and escalates the confrontation between the judicial and executive branches. Antara Sinha for DD India.
Meanwhile, California sued the Trump administration on Wednesday, challenging the president's authority to impose sweeping tariffs that have set off a global trade war. The lawsuit, which was filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California, seeks to block Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs on foreign trading partners, accusing him of abusing his powers and inflicting financial harm on the state and the nation. Democrats asked the judge to bar Department of Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection from enforcing the tariffs. The act enables the president to freeze and block transactions in response to foreign threats, but doesn't allow the president to adopt tariffs, the suit says. California's move follows rapidly changing tariff plans by the Trump administration. The lawsuit also argues that enacting such tariffs require approval from the Congress. And in a dramatic escalation of tensions between the Trump administration and Harvard University, federal authorities have pulled millions in research funding and issued sharp threats over the institution's refusal to comply with federal demands. Here's more.
The U.S. government on Wednesday cancelled $2.7 million in research grants to Harvard. Officials also warned the university could face restrictions on enrolling international students unless it hands over records allegedly linking visa-holding students to illegal and violent activities. In a statement, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said, "And if Harvard cannot verify it is in full compliance with its reporting requirements, the university will lose the privilege of enrolling foreign students." The pressure doesn't stop there. According to reports, the Internal Revenue Service is now preparing to strip Harvard of its tax-exempt status, an unprecedented move against a major academic institution. This follows President Trump's threat to revoke Harvard's non-profit status, accusing the university of defiance after it rejected federal demands to alter its academic programs. Trump says Harvard owes the nation an apology.
Sure. First, when it comes to Harvard, as I said, the president has been quite clear they must follow federal law. He also wants to see Harvard apologize, and Harvard should apologize for the egregious anti-Semitism that took place on their college campus against Jewish American students.
But on campus, students have rallied in support of the university. They say Harvard's refusal to bow to political pressure sets it apart from other schools and even major law firms that have capitulated to White House demands.
It was great for Harvard to reject the asks. And, I applaud them for it. A lot of my friends applaud them for it. But it wasn't surprising.
The conflict comes amid wider tensions. The Trump administration has threatened to slash funding for universities hosting pro-Palestinian protests. Those protests, sparked by Israel's actions in Gaza, following Hamas's October 2023 attack have drawn national scrutiny. Bureau Report, DD India.
Moving on, Qatar's Amir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani told Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday that Syria's new leader was keen to build ties with Moscow. The assurance from Sheikh Tamim comes as Putin attempts to retain Russia's use of 2 military bases in Syria and avoid a serious blow to its strategic influence in the region. After the fall of its ally Bashar al-Assad in December, Assad was toppled by rebels led by Ahmad al-Shara, who has replaced him as the president. Putin said development of the situation in Syria, which has been rocked by sectarian violence in recent weeks, was of serious importance.
We would like to do everything to ensure that Syria firstly remains a sovereign, independent and territorial integral state. And we would like to discuss with you the possibility of providing assistance to Syrian people, including humanitarian assistance. There are many problems there, political security and purely economic.
It's been rough times for some German companies. The country is economically weak. There's a trade war brewing with unknown consequences. In the midst of all this is the earnings season. As companies are opening their books and making forecasts, experts are taking note of unexpected stock buyback programs. Lars Holter is with DW and joins me from Berlin. Lars, what can you tell us about these buybacks?
Thanks for having me. Well, indeed that there's massive amounts of money on the line. Of the 40 German blue chip companies, that's those companies listed in the DAX index, there are 18 that are currently buying back their own shares. And some are shelling out big bucks. Industrial giant Siemens is spending 6 billion euros on taking some of its shares off the market. And it's the same amount over at DHL, that's a postal and logistics company. Business software giant SAP is spending 5 billion, as is Mercedes-Benz. And then there's BMW, Daimler Truck, Allianz, and some others who have scheduled 2 billion to be spent. Now, all of this is, of course, pending shareholder approval, but it's unlikely that shareholders would object. After all, they are the ones benefiting handsomely of such action. That's because share buybacks, of course, lower the numbers of shares on the market, and that usually leads to higher share prices and to higher dividends. And especially in Germany, dividends are a major factor playing into investors' decisions.
And with so many unknowns, are there good and bad stock buybacks?
Yes, definitely. It just generally depends on how the company is doing. Now, let's take Munich Re. That's one of the world's biggest reinsurance companies. They're looking at great cash flow right now. They have a ton of liquidity and they're spending it on a buyback because they don't find anything better to do with that money. Not necessarily a bad idea, because in the past we've seen companies with too much money and just bad ideas on how to spend it. Just look at Bayer's disastrous takeover of Monsanto. That looked like a good idea at the time when they had too much cash sitting around, but the deal almost destroyed the company. So a buyback at the time would have been a much better option. Or look at SAP right now. They're buying back stocks to put into stock-based bonus programs for high-ranking employees. And that's a very attractive way to attract talent. But then on the other side, you take Mercedes-Benz. They're buying back stocks in the midst of a crisis with falling revenues. Maybe that money would be better invested into some research and development. Or at DHL, they're buying back shares while cutting back on staff, firing 8,000 people. Now, those people could probably use that money. So share buybacks are not necessarily a bad thing, but they can be.
Right. Lars, thank you for those updates. Chinese President Xi Jinping arrived in Cambodian capital Phnom Penh on Thursday, the last stop of his three-nation trip to Southeast Asia. The Chinese chief called on Cambodia to jointly oppose hegemonism, power politics and bloc confrontation so as to defend the common interest of both countries and other developing nations. President Xi is on a three-nation Southeast Asia visit as Beijing seeks to strengthen regional trade ties and offset the impact of huge tariffs imposed by his U.S. counterpart, Donald Trump. The leaders of Canada's major parties debated for the first time ahead of early election scheduled for April 28th. The debate focused on tariffs and negotiating with US President Trump, housing, cost of living and immigration. Liberal leader Markani was frequent target, while NDP leader Jagmeet Singh accused the moderator of unfairly shutting down his attempts to discuss healthcare. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre spoke on terrorism and deportations.
We are still in a crisis, the most serious crisis of our lives. We have to react with overwhelming force. Yes, we have to lower taxes, some taxes. Yes, we have to reduce bureaucracy, but government must act in a crisis. So, we must have an aligned government.
I am because I will put Canada first. I will never compromise our country's interest, and I'm going to control what we can here. Obviously, no one is going to be able to control Donald Trump's decisions, but we can control our domestic economy by reversing the economic policies the Liberals have put in place that have weakened our country and made us more dependent on the Americans.
India and China will soon resume direct air services, and technical teams from both sides are working out the operational details. Briefing the media on Thursday, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said, with both countries agreeing in principle to restart flights, operational modalities to resume direct air services soon are being worked out.
In principle, both countries have agreed that flight operations will resume. The technical teams on both sides are looking into the technical arrangements for the flight services to resume. The two civil aviation authorities have met and are discussing the relevant modalities, including the updated framework. So once this updated framework, which is a technical level discussion, arrangements between the civil aviation authorities of both sides, we'll see this direct flight connectivity and air services connectivity between both countries restored.
MEA spokesperson also announced that Mansarovar Yatra may soon resume.
The Yatra will happen this year, and we are making preparations, and more information would be put out for the public soon.
And the MEA also hit out at Pakistan for distancing itself from the 26/11 terror attacks, accused the Havurana, recently handed over by the US to India, saying no matter how hard it tries, its image as the epicenter of global terrorism won't change.
Pakistan may try very hard, but its reputation as the epicenter of global terrorism will not diminish. The extradition of Rana is a reminder yet again to Pakistan that it needs to act to bring to justice other perpetrators of Mumbai terror attacks, whom it continues to shield.
It's still to come on DD India Newshour. We talk about the implications of Iran-US nuclear program talks. India's Rajnath Singh lays out a compelling vision for self-reliant and future-ready India at a defence conclave. Indian Minister Nirmala Sitharaman speaks at 150-year celebrations of Bombay Stock Exchange.
Bharat welcomes the world to a new era of creativity. Waves World Audio-Visual and Entertainment Summit, as Mumbai hosts the global stage for creativity and innovation. Connecting creators through Creatosphere, where emerging voices rise. Wave Accelerator, where ideas meet global investors. Waves Bazaar, a global marketplace for content. Connecting countries through global media dialogue and industry roundtable. Bharat Pavilion, capturing India's rich history of storytelling.
वेव्स के रूप में भारत एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म बनाने जा रहा है जिसमें दुनिया के एंटरटेनमेंट लैंडस्केप पर उसको बदलने की क्षमता होगी.
From culturals to cinema, gaming to animation, fueling the next wave of entertainment. Connecting creators, connecting countries. Waves 2025.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. We now return to our top story on U.S. Iran nuclear program negotiations. Joining me is Dr. Rajiv Nayan, Senior Research Associate with Manohar Parrikar Institute of Defence Studies and Analysis, New Delhi. Good evening and welcome, sir. Now,
good evening.
Sir, what is at stake, would you say, in the negotiations between America and Iran? And there appears to be an interesting role that Russia can play in it.
First of all, about the stakes, definitely the way President Trump, who is known for his flamboyant behavior and aggressive statements, came out in support of negotiations and dialogue. So it shows that yes, it has got the deal has got stakes in the United States also, and especially for President Trump, because the earlier deal, which is known as JCPOA, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, negotiated and concluded by the Democratic administration led by President Obama, was abandoned by President Trump in his first tenure, and now he is going for that. So definitely he sees that there is a scope for peace and there is scope for dialogue there. Earlier he had just dismissed dialogue and he had adopted a very belligerent attitude. So it is there. Definitely there is a stake for Iran also, because then you are not confronting with the mightiest power of the world, and so you have got a scope again here for Iran also to get sanctions. I don't know whether rolled back, but at least some relaxation or some relief on sanctions to start with, I will say. And it has got a stakes for the world also.
Right.
Because once the Middle East or West Asia, West Asia is stabilized, then the oil supply, energy supply, and other business activities for the world would also be restored. Already the world is facing problem because of the two theaters, one in Ukraine and another in, say, Israel and around Israel, Gaza, whatever area you say, Lebanon. So at least this will be a great relief for the world if a deal is cut and deal is concluded. So that's there. So now, though I think the negotiations are on, and I am quite optimistic, and I am hopeful the way the frequency of talks is taking place, or they have increased the frequency every week on every Saturday.
Right.
All the sides, whatever say, 3-4 sides have already come in and they are negotiating. It means they are serious about it. So
right. And the second part of my question, Dr. Nayan, the Iranian foreign minister is visiting Moscow. He's in Russia. What role could Russia play in these negotiations?
As just now, I don't think Russia is playing very active role. Just at this moment, it is between United States of America and Iran. Other parties, even E6, what we call generally, even Europeans are not playing a greater role, while they had played a very active role for JCPOA 2015 deal. But this time, all the main actors, say UK, France, Germany, all are just waiting and watching. So, I mean, even Europeans do not have any role to play.
Right. So, just to state this point, sir, in that case, why would the Iranian foreign minister, between two negotiations, the earlier one that took place in Oman and the next that will take place in Rome, why is he traveling to Russia in the middle of this?
No, obviously, Russia has been a great backer of Iran, Russia and China. These two were the great backers of Iranian position. They were always sympathetic towards the Iranian position. Although when United States dumped the deal, they could not do much. Even they did not take very aggressive, assertive position, but they were on the side of Iran. So obviously, the Arachi, the current foreign minister of Iran, is a nuclear veteran. He was number 2 person when the deal for 2015 deal was cut, and he was assisting his atomic energy chief, and he is very well known to the nuclear establishment, not only of Russia but also of United States. He knows and he addresses all the great nuclear people or big nuclear people of United States by first name. They call each other by first name, and they have got great rapport. In fact, in one of the incidents when I was present and they all narrated the story, the person who was Energy Secretary of United States, narrated how their kitchen was closed, American kitchen was closed. So Iranian offered them the food, and from after negotiation, in fact, they all had food in the Iranian kitchen or Iranian restaurant, whatever place. So this kind of rapport they have got. So obviously, this is the preparatory time, and they must be. I am sure they must be the Iranian side or Iranian foreign minister explaining the situation, the status to Russia or to other parties informally. Everything is very taking place in a very interesting setting. Means it is formal, informal. Means indirect talks. One, they are there, as the New York Times had reported, they sat in Doha for a couple of hours with the Omanian government, and thereafter they did not talk directly because of this Zelensky experience they had in Washington. So they are basically avoiding this kind of ugly situation before camera or while talking directly to each other. But so far, what has emerged out, even by the press statement released by United States, the talks are going very constructively and in a very cordial atmosphere.
Okay, and Dr. Nan, if we to understand in the larger context, how is 2018 different from 2025? What were the grounds of withdrawal from the nuclear deal for Trump administration? You mentioned the earlier deal was negotiated by the Democrats, and now that he's renegotiating, what are the tenets that he could focus on? It's different from the previous deal.
Actually, he stunned the world. No one really expected that he would talk for peace. He would talk for dialogue. So all were just expecting there would be some tension between Iran and Israel stroke or Israel dash United States sides. Of course, Europeans were always in favor of continuing an agreement, continuing the deal, but Americans, especially Trump, were not in favor. So he surprised the world, no doubt. So first thing which is coming out from different leaks, I will say, and that Israelis wanted to take out the nuclear sites, which Americans, even it seems their Arab and European partners were not in favor, you can say. So Trump has got a dilemma. He doesn't want to antagonize all his allies. Already he's antagonizing them with his tariff ideas. Right. So second thing is, once you take out the nuclear sites, don't expect that Iranian will not retaliate. So Iranians have also become Iran has become a major missile power, and it demonstrated its prowess in the missile attack which they had. And in fact, United States had to intervene, and after the attack on Iran, it seems that United States intervention basically brought the ceasefire, and thereafter even Israelis opened their airfield. Otherwise, it would not have been opened. So, United States doesn't want the tension to escalate to that level. So, because economy, right. Trump is basically an economic person. So he has threatened, he has added caveat to the dialogue that after 6 months there will be bombardment. But yeah, we should take it with a pinch of salt. It won't happen so soon. But yes, it is his style. He will negotiate and he will threaten. Then he will have a middle path or something like that. So
okay, and talking about the nuclear deal, Iran's nuclear program, could you help us simplify what distinguishes a peaceful nuclear program, a civil nuclear program, and what it takes to make a bomb, in the sense what is Iran allowed and what it isn't?
A very interesting question. In fact, Iran never maintained that it is going to build a bomb. That's very, very clear. In fact, it says that a nuclear non-proliferation treaty doesn't stop a country or its a member state from enriching or reprocessing. Enriching means you are bringing out uranium-235 level. This is generally, in any natural uranium, it is 0.7%. So once it is enriched to say 90, 95, now many say that even 85%, if you enrich to that level, then you acquire a bomb grade material and you can build a bomb. So what Iran has demonstrated, that it has got technical prowess, and it says that possessing technical prowess doesn't mean that you have got a bomb. So this was the point of contention, and it says that NPT doesn't prohibit anywhere. So I am doing it for peaceful program. So earlier he had just frozen it to the, say, symbolic level, like 20%, up to 19.99% of enrichment. It means you are under low enriched uranium category. Once you are increasing it to 19.99, means 20% you are increasing, it means it is highly enriched uranium, it is called. It doesn't mean that it is a bomb grade material, but once you have started reaching its level, you start increasing it, then you come closer to building a bomb. So what Iran now says, that it has increased up to 60% level, although some European, American think tank says that no, it has already reached up to 83% or 85%. So it has acquired bomb grade material. So this is again point of contention. Even IAEA has come out with a report that it has got 275 kg of enriched uranium, means like around 10 kg you can say, or some say 19 kg, depending on kind of bomb you are having. If you have got, then you can build one bomb at least. So they say that they can build around, say, 10 bombs, 11 bombs, whatever, depending on 8 bombs. So this is what they generally speculate. So what I would like to say, they have got capability, but they are demonstrating, or they are stating that they don't have intent to build a bomb.
And then these negotiations become all the more important. Finally, sir, India has expressed optimism about the talks between US and Iran. India has important stakes vis-a-vis US, Iran and the whole of West Asia.
But definitely, we all have got a stake. The world has got a stake. All the Arab countries, even Saudi Arabia is visiting Iran.
Yes.
And it is very important development because they are also showing solidarity. And the what is coming out, it seems that, yeah, there could be some deal. There are some, of course, negotiating positions. Generally, they all take maximalist position. They want that at least Iranians should stop enrichment, stop their nuclear activities. But what earlier National Security Advisor had indicated towards that. But now what is coming out is that they will somehow reach the same kind of deals, some plus minus here and there. But yeah, definitely they are in mood, and all know their red lines, where they can go, where they cannot go. So that point is very much there. And in fact, all the hawkish elements inside United States, NSA and Secretary of State, both are not involved in talks.
Right. We'll have to wait and watch what happens next in the second round.
Witkoff is involved, and their ambassador at that time, ambassador in Oman, was taken to the negotiating table. So I think, so it shows that, yeah, America is also serious about, and as India is optimist, so we all are optimists that something positive should come out of the talk. If not this time, next time, or after a month, whatever, but yeah, something.
All right. On that note, Dr. Rajiv Nyan, thank you very much for joining us on the News Hour and sharing your perspective. Delegation of the Dawoodi Bohra community met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday. During the meeting, representatives of the community thanked Prime Minister for the Waqf Amendment Act. They said this amendment was their long-standing demand, which has now been fulfilled. Along with this, they conveyed their appreciation and reaffirmed their faith in Prime Minister's inclusive vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. Moving on, Defence Conclave 2025, Force of the Future, began in New Delhi on Thursday. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh delivered the keynote address in which he asserted that India is on the path of becoming self-reliant in defence with a strong industrial base that not only meets Indian needs but also exports to the world. He warned that future conflicts will be unpredictable, will be fought in many domains such as cyber space. He expressed confidence that in the wake of uncertainty of global supply chains, India has emerged as a reliable partner for the world.
मेक इन इंडिया प्रोग्राम हमारे देश के डिफेंस प्रोडक्शन को तो मजबूत बना ही रहा है, साथ ही दुनिया की डिफेंस सप्लाई चेन को भी रेजिलिएंट और फ्लेक्सिबल बनाने की कैपेबिलिटी धीरे धीरे बना रहा है। भारत की डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कैपेबिलिटीज जहां नेशनल सिक्योरिटी और स्ट्रेटेजिक ऑटोनॉमी के लिए काम कर रही हैं, वहीं ग्लोबल सप्लाई शॉक से मैन्युफैक्चरिंग को इंसुलेट भी कर रही हैं। हमारी गवर्नमेंट देश में डिफेंस सेक्टर को मजबूती देने के पीछे कोई जंग छेड़ने का, कोई वार छेड़ने का हमारा इरादा नहीं है। हमारी डिफेंस कैपेबिलिटीज एक क्रेडिबल डेटरेंस की तरह है। जिसका उद्देश्य पीस एंड ट्रैंक्विलिटी बनाए रखना।
Raman participated in the grand celebrations of Bombay Stock Exchange on Thursday in Mumbai, marking the historic milestone of 150 years of the institution's journey in empowering India's financial aspirations and contributing to nation's economic development. As part of the ceremony, Finance Minister unveiled a special 150 rupee commemorative coin, a fitting tribute to the stock exchange's illustrious legacy and steadfast commitment to driving progress and innovation in the financial sector. In her address, the minister lauded BSE's tech advancement and its vital role in India's economic development.
I was surprised to hear, and I'm very proud to note, that the BSE has a capacity to process 1,500 crore orders per day and to manage even peaks of 14 lakh orders in a second. Institution, 150-year-old institution, has utilized technology to transform itself so much that the numbers match India's population scale, and for the world, which is advanced, which has seen all the stock market booms and busts, today looks up to the Indian scaling that the BSE has achieved as remarkable.
Let's talk about the American stock markets. Most stocks edged higher on Thursday as US-Japan trade talks offered some cautious optimism, with President Trump citing big progress despite no details. Gains were capped by Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's cautious stance on rate cuts. S&P 500 rose 0.3%, Nasdaq slipped 0.1%, Dow fell 1.25%, dragged by United Health's surprise earning miss and weak outlook sparking a 22% share drop. Gold retreated from record highs and the dollar ticked up. Meanwhile, ECB cut rates by 25 basis points, citing growing risks to economic growth from trade uncertainty. While Alphabet also declined over 1% after a judge ruled Google had illegally dominated online ad tech markets. The European Central Bank has cut interest rates once again, amid growing concerns that President Trump's unpredictable tariff policies could derail economic growth across the Eurozone. ECB's President Christine Lagarde emphasized the need for flexibility, saying, "We have to stand ready for the unpredictable. It makes a lot of sense to be agile," she says.
Decisions, we have to stand ready for the unpredictable, which is why I think it makes a lot of sense to be ready, to be agile, to work on reliable data, and to operate on a meeting-by-meeting basis. We meet about every 6 weeks. Think about the number of changes which have taken place in the last 6 weeks. There could be more changes in the next 6 weeks.
Taiwanese chipmaking titan TSMC reported on Thursday a surge in net profit for the first quarter after a series of US tariffs on the critical technology impacting its demand outlook. It also said it has not detected any change in customer behavior since the announcement of American tariffs on global trade partners. TSMC announced plans for a $100 billion US investment with Trump at the White House last month, on top of $65 billion pledged for 3 plants in the state of Arizona, one of which is up and running. TSMC further added its net profit for the first 3 months of 2025 rose 60.3% from a year ago to new Taiwan $361.5 billion. Net revenue for the quarter soared nearly 42% to new Taiwan $839.29 billion. Year on year, also beating forecast figures released by the company last week showed these details. You're watching DD India Newshour. Time now for all the action from the world of sports. Indian shooter Suruchi Inder Singh and Saurabh Chaudhary clinched gold in the 10-meter air pistol mixed team event at the ISSF World Cup in Lima, Peru on Wednesday. In the gold medal match, the Indian pair shot 17 to finish ahead of Chinese pair who managed 9. Suruchi and Saurabh reached the gold medal match with a combined score of 580 in the qualification, with Suruchi outscoring her more experienced partner by a couple of points. Earlier on Tuesday, Suruchi won gold in the women's 10-meter air pistol event, defeating her double Olympic medalist compatriot Manu with to settle for a silver. Saurabh Chaudhary also made it into the podium in the men's 10-meter air pistol event, securing a bronze. Spanish tennis legend Rafael Nadal is said to be honoured on the opening day of this year's French Open. 38-year-old Nadal won 14 of his 22 majors at Roland Garros in Paris, but suffered his earliest exit after first-round defeat by Alexander Zverev last year. He did not say then if it was last time that his adoring Parisian fans would watch him in action at the major. However, the Spaniard retired from professional tennis later at Davis Cup finals in November. American great tennis legend Serena Williams questioned the preferential treatment meted out to male players. Williams, who won 23 Grand Slam titles, underlined the difference while talking about men's world number one Jannik Sinner's doping ban. Williams said that she would have been banned for 20 years, stripped of her Grand Slam titles, had she failed drug tests like Sinner did last year. World number one Sinner is currently serving a 3-month ban for cross-the-ball use. 3-month ban was handed to him by World Anti-Doping Agency after both parties reached an agreement. The 23-year-old had 2 positive drug tests last year. Double Olympic medalist Neeraj Chopra kicked off this year's season with an impressive 84.52 meter throw at Potchefstroom Invitational in South Africa on Wednesday. His performance secured the gold medal, topping a 6-man field in what is pivotal year for world athletics. Neeraj's next major event is Doha Diamond League on May 16, where he will face tougher competition. 2024 Paris Olympics saw Neeraj earn silver with a throw of 89.45 meters, while Pakistan's Arshad Nadeem claimed gold with an Olympic record of 92.97 meters. And that's all for this edition of DD India Newshour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan this QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Newshour. Namaskar.